Hi, I'm Tamara Kelly from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Ridgeline Stripes crochet hat, which is a free pattern on mooglyblog.com and one I'm wearing right here. As you can see, it also matches the Ridgeline Stripes crochet cowl, which is already out on Mooglyblog, along with its right and left-handed video tutorials. Both of these patterns call for concept by Katia Merino Baby, so let's get started. To make this pattern, I used a 4.5mm crochet hook, which some manufacturers call a G and some call a G+. The important thing is to go by the millimeters. I also used a total of 300 yards of the Concept by Katia Merino Baby, approximately 60 yards each of 5 different colors. This pattern includes 2 sizes, adult small and large. Let's take a closer look. First, let's take a look at the finished hat. What you see right here is actually officially the inside of the hat. You see, when we're crocheting the hat, this is the right side. It looks great. I love this stitch pattern and it's got a beautiful ribbed brim. We change colors every row, and to do that, we carry the yarn along the inside. However, when we do that, it creates this really lovely braid. And indeed, I say this makes the hat reversible. You can wear it with the braid out or in, whichever your preference is. The braid itself is quite thin and squishy. It has a little bit of texture of a look to it, but when you wear it on the inside of the hat, it doesn't add any bulk, and it looks great from either side. This hat is made from the top down, so we're actually crocheting this direction from here all the way down to the brim. So you can make this in 2 sizes. The small size fits approximately 22 inches with stretch, of course, and the adult is for 23 inches, again with lots of stretch. Let's get started making our own. So for the hat, I'm going to start with my lightest color, and I'm going to start by making a magic circle, which is going to go over my first finger twice towards me. That's my non-hook hand. Then I'm going to use my fingers to hold onto those ends so that I can slip my hook under both of those loops and pull the furthest one back. Oops, let me grab it again, just under the other loop. Then I'll yarn over with my working yarn, and I'm ready to start stitching into my magic ring. We're going to start with a chainless starting double crochet, but you can use whichever double crochet chain 3 substitute you prefer. Stacked single crochet is another popular one. For this one, I'm going to pull up this loop to the height of a double crochet and secure the top of the loop with my finger. I'm then going to yarn over with this loop itself, just like that. I will go into the magic ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the loop I just pulled up and behind that yarn over, and then yarn over and pull through 2 to finish the stitch. I do have a separate tutorial for that on my YouTube channel. After that, we finish this round by working an additional 11 double crochets into the ring. So at the end of round 1, you should have a total of 12 double crochets into the ring, and however you'd like to start them is totally fine. So now I've got my 12 double crochets worked into the ring, so what I'm going to do before I join with a slip stitch is I'm going to put a stitch marker right in the last stitch, the one I just finished. Then I'm going to come over here and put one in the top of my chainless starting double crochet. You can put it in the top of your chain 3, on top of your stacked single crochet. Whatever you used for your first stitch is totally fine. Then we're going to join with a slip stitch right in that first stitch. Now, we're not going to turn at this point, but later in the pattern we will be turning. So marking that first and last stitch with these stitch markers will become increasingly important. Let's go ahead for now, though, and move on to round 2, which is still made here from officially the right side. We're going to start again with a chainless starting double crochet, but again, you can use whichever double crochet substitute you prefer, or I should say whatever chain 3 substitute you prefer. But you can also just use a chain 3. So I put that stitch right in there. Now that I've put that right in that first marked stitch, I will move that stitch marker on up to this stitch to mark the new first stitch of this round. There we go. And now it's a simple flat circle round where we're going to put an additional double crochet right into that first stitch, like so, and then just work 2 double crochets in each remaining stitch around so that we have a total of 24 stitches. These first couple of rounds here are just setting us up so that then we can dive into our main stitch pattern. So here I've come to the end of round 2 and I've got 24 stitches made and I've moved up that last stitch marker as well. At this point, we're going to begin doing something called PULAD, pull, up, loop, and drop, PULAD. We pull up on our loop and we're going to drop it. Not quite just let it flap in the air though. The really important thing is to grab another stitch marker and secure that loop. And when I do it, I also like to secure the working yarn, just a personal habit. The main thing is to secure that loop so that it can't pull back out. We're going to leave it as an active loop while we introduce another color of yarn. So we're going to join our next color with a double crochet, also known as a standing double crochet. To do that, I've put a slip knot of the new color on my hook, and I'm going to use the fingers that I'm not using to hold my hook to hold onto that tail. If you're someone who does the overhand hold, you can just put it right up along with your hook like this. The main thing is we don't want this loop on our hook to be able to turn around when we yarn over. So that right there would be too loose, and I would need to really hold on to that to make sure it can't spin. So the way I prefer to do it is to just use this hold, at least for this stitch, so I can use these fingers to hold onto that tail end. Then I'm going to yarn over with the working yarn, and I'm going to come back here right to our project. Now for this round, we're joining from the right side, so I don't have to flip this over, and I'm joining to the first stitch. So that's going to be our first marked stitch right there. So I insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm going to take just a moment to scooch all these loops on my hook right down next to each other and make sure they're all still nice and straight and that I haven't lost my yarn over. With that done, I can then yarn over, and I'm going to pull through the first 2 loops and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And you'll notice how I'm using my hands here to really hold that stitch still while I make it. Again, I have a separate tutorial for this on my channel if you'd like. With that stitch made, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to move that stitch marker up to the new first stitch of the round, like so. There we go. And then if we go back to our instructions, you'll see that next we're going to front post double crochet and double crochet around the same stitch that we just worked into. So let's take those one at a time. First, we're going to front post double crochet around that same stitch. So I took the blue paper, or excuse me, the purple paper away, so it'd be a little bit easier to see now that we've got a darker purple here. You can see this is the stitch that I worked this stitch into. So I want to work a front post stitch right around that same double crochet. So to do that, I'm going to start by yarning over because it's a front post double crochet. And then I'm going to insert my hook from the front of our work along the side of that stitch and then bring the hook back to the front of our work, going right around the post of the stitch below. Then I can yarn over and pull that loop up through and around until it's free and clear of that other stitch. Then I just finish it like a standard double crochet. Again, I have a separate tutorial for this on my YouTube channel if you need a closer look at post stitches, also known as relief stitches. I'll be making some more, of course, as well as we continue to make this pattern. Now that I've worked the front post double crochet around that stitch, I'm going to work another double crochet into the top of it. So we worked into the top of the stitch once when we joined. We've worked around it now with the front post, and now we're going to go right back into the top of it again for another double crochet. So you may need to just really push some stitches out of the way to find it, but you want to go right back in that same stitch. So let me sort of angle everything here so you can see it. So it's a double crochet, front post, double crochet, all right there in the same stitch. And if you've already made the matching cowl, that looks pretty familiar, I'm sure. Now, going back to our instructions, after we do that, we're going to skip the next stitch, and then after that, we're ready to begin our repeat, which starts with the asterisk. And for our repeat, we double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet in the next stitch, and then skip the stitch after that. So let's do it together. Double crochet right in that next stitch there. There we go. Then front post double crochet around that same post. Now you can check if you're not familiar, not as used to making post stitches. You can see we worked around that one. We're skipping that one. Here's the next post. You can see we worked right into the top of it. So we're going to come from the front and pop our hook up again on the other side. Yarn over and pull that loop all the way around the post of that stitch. and then you can finish your double crochet. Then you can go ahead and push that right out of the way as needed to get back into the top of that same stitch again for another regular double crochet. Then skip the next stitch. Let's do that repeat one more time together. We've skipped that stitch, so we're coming to the next one where we double crochet, followed by a front post double crochet, followed by another double crochet. Then we skip the next stitch and do it all the way again till we come around. We will skip that last stitch, so be sure to mark the last double crochet of that last set and join to your first stitch of the round. So here you can see I've almost but not quite finished up round 3. There's a couple of things I want to point out here as I do. You can see I have marked the last stitch of this round, and we still skipped the last stitch of the previous round. It's part of the repeat. However, I haven't joined yet. Before I join, I want to do a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm going to take yet another stitch marker, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark the surface right here of round 1. And I'm doing this so that at a glance, I can always tell this is the quote unquote right side of the hat. As we work, it'll become a little bit more obvious, but especially these first few rounds, we want to make sure that we know which one is the right side and the wrong side. Now, yes, again, this hat is reversible, but we need just 2 names to use. So we're going to use right side and wrong side because those are the ones we're most familiar with. Now, the other thing I need to watch for is as I go to make this slip stitch, I want to make sure all the little bits here of the other yarns. Right now there's only one, but there's going to be more as we go. Make sure those fall to the wrong side of the hat. Again, we just need a name to call it, so it's going to be the wrong side of the hat. We want to make sure they end up on that side. So right now we're ready to slip stitch, and I want to make sure that that loop is in back. If they were in front like this is I would need to make sure to push those to the other side. So I know once those are out of the way, free and clear, we can go ahead and join with our slip stitch like so. And that is it for round 3. But once again, we need to pull up our loop and drop. So I'm going to pull that up nice and high, grab another stitch marker. We need quite a few for this pattern, and secure that loop. Then I'm ready to grab my next color. So now we're ready to add our color for round 4, but round 4 we join from the wrong side. So we want to make sure and turn our work over, and then we're going to be joining with a double crochet again, just like we did before. So I'm going to start with the slip knot on my hook. Now I'm back to this lighter green in the one I made, so I've brought back the purple paper to make it just a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to grab that tail end, I'm going to yarn over, and now I'm going to find the first stitch of the round. And again, you can see right away how handy it is having these stitch markers, especially once we're turning our work over. I can see right at a glance, this is right where I need to go. So I'm going to insert my hook right in that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, get those loops on the hook all down close to each other. So I can yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And now I can move this stitch marker on up. Let's see here, I've got my elbow on my yarn. Let me get that out from under me. There we go. So we'll move that stitch marker right on up here to our new first stitch of the round. And then sometimes I even like to just hold on to that a little bit longer, just to give my work a little bit more steadiness while I make some more stitches. So now that we have put a double crochet in that stitch, we now want to work a front post double crochet around that same stitch. So just like before, we're going to come from the front, go around, the hook comes up on the other side, we grab the yarn, pull it up, and finish the front post double crochet. Then we double crochet again in that same first stitch. There we go. Like so. Looks pretty familiar, right? After that, we go back to our instructions and we see that we skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work that same series of 3 stitches in the stitch after that. So that's double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. There we are. Then, looking at our instructions again for round 4, we skip the next stitch and work those 3 stitches around the next stitch. So if we skip the next stitch, then we're going to be working those 3 stitches now around the stitch right in the center of a set of 3. So you can, if I pull those apart, you can kind of see there's a set of 3 there. This first one, we worked on the first and last of those 3. Now we're back to working in the center. We double crochet, front post double crochet. You might have to go digging for that one a little bit, but that's what creates this gorgeous texture. Then double crochet again, right back in that same stitch, like so. Then we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, which lands us right back in the center of the next one, and we're going to do that series of 3 again. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. There we go. Then we skip 1 stitch and we begin our official repeat. All of that comes before the repeat. It's at this point we begin the part with the asterisk. So let's work through that one time together. So you'll notice that stitch lands us in the first of a set of 3. We're going to go right into that stitch with a double crochet, front post double crochet right around it, and double crochet in that same stitch again. Then we skip 1 stitch and do it in the third of that set of 3. Double crochet, front post double crochet, double crochet again. After we've done that, you can see we're going to be mimicking what we did here. We worked on the edges, then center, edges. We're going to skip 1 so that we can do it in the center of this set of 3. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And then we skip 2 so that we can do it in the center again. So if you think about this pattern as being made in these sets of 3 stitches, then there's the outer 2 stitches and there's the center stitch of the 3. And we're increasing by working sometimes into the outer 2, and we're working even when we work into the center 1. I lost that stitch. Let me remake it there. Happens to all of us. There we go. So this is the full repeat. Work that set of 3 in the first, work that set of 3 in the last, and then center, center. First and last, center, center. So that is one way of looking at it. It's also, of course, written out in the instructions if you like thinking about it a little more formally rather, that way as well. But that's sort of the repeat that I keep in my head as I continue to work around in round 4. So here I am at the end of round 4. I've moved up that last stitch marker, we skipped the last stitch, and we're ready to slip stitch. But I wanted to point out, we're on the wrong side, remember? We can't see that center one. This means we want this to be the messy side. We want all these ends from the previous rounds to be on this side facing us. So you can see there's the active loop, there's the working yarn. All of this we want to be up as we make this join right here. So we can go ahead and join right to that first stitch of this round, pull up our loop, secure it with another stitch marker, and we're ready to grab our next color. Just remember, flip it over again so that we're now on the right side for round 5. So now we're ready for round 5, and again, we want to make sure that we have our right side up. We prepare our hook by putting our slip knot on the hook, and of course I'm going to hold onto that tail end nice and securely here so that I can yarn over, find our first stitch of the round, and join to it with a double crochet. And as always, unless the instructions say otherwise, which here they do not, we want to make sure to work under both of those top 2 loops. There we go. Got it. All right. I've joined with that double crochet, so I'll move that stitch marker on up here to the top of that stitch. And now, of course, we know anywhere we join, we're going to make that trio of stitches here. When we're making this hat pattern, we've got a double crochet. We now need a front post double crochet, followed by another double crochet, all in that same stitch. There we go. So we worked into the first of this one, so this means this is an increase section. We're going to work into the last of that set of 3. So we skip one, go to the next one, double crochet, front post double crochet right around that stitch, and double crochet again right into the top. And then if we look at our instructions for round 5, after we've done that one, we then are going to skip one and work that series right in the center. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again right there in the center of those 2 stitches. Then we skip 2 stitches and do it again. Front post double crochet, or excuse me, regular double crochet first, then front post double crochet, then double crochet right in the top again, then skip 2 stitches again. Front post double crochet, or gosh darn, I keep doing that, don't I? Regular double crochet, then front post double crochet, then double crochet again. Got myself in some sort of mesmerized state here with all these double crochets. There we go. All right. So let's look at what this repeat looked like. Remember on the previous round, when we worked in the front and the first and last of a set of 3, with 2 sets of our own 3 here, you can see we're increasing. We're turning these 3 stitches into 6 stitches. And now we work in the center 3 times. Previously it was twice. So we increase, and then 1, 1, 1. So edges, center, center, center. Then we go back to the edges, the first and last. Double crochet, then front post double crochet, then double crochet again in the top of this stitch here once I get around. There we go. And if we worked into the first of the set of 3, we know we need to work into the last of the set of 3. And again, it's that same set of 3 stitches that creates all the texture in this pattern here. Looks like I need to pull up some more yarn from my ball here. It wants to run around the table a little bit for me. There we go. So now we can see oops, I put that last stitch in the wrong place, didn't I? If I look closely, I can see it ended up over in that next stitch. Let me pull that out and get that lined up a little better. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to skip the next stitch and going back to working into the center of those 3 stitches. So we'll work in the center of this group of 3. And then, got to put that 3rd stitch in there. The center of the next group of 3. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And then once more, we go into the center of the set of 3. And then it'll be time to start over again with another increase. So that is the trick to round 5. Just remember, when you get to the end of round 5, we're on the right side. So we want to make sure that all those ends from the previous rounds end up on the wrong side. And here I am at the end of round 5. You can see, fortunately, all of our ends from the other colors seem to naturally want to fall to the back, but I wanted to point out what happened here. We ended up with one of the little ends at the front. It's not a big deal. If this happens to you, nothing's gone awry. You can just use your hook to go ahead and pull it to the back. Again, you'll want to make sure everything's in the back before you join with a slip stitch. And then you'll be ready for your next color. There we go. All set. I'm going to pull up that loop, of course, and secure it. And then we'll be ready to bring in the last color of our set of 5. In round 6, we're going to bring in our 5th and final color, but we're going to be working from the wrong side. So once again, make sure you flip your work over. Every once in a while, as you're making the hat, you'll want to take the time to straighten out all the other colors so that all of these strands don't get twisted. Working on a table like this, though, really does help. Once we've got that flipped over and ready to go, We put the slip knot, of course, on our hook with our new color here. Again, I'm going to hold on to that tail end, yarn over, and find the first stitch of the previous round and join with a double crochet just as I've been doing. There we go. And once again, then I will move that stitch marker right on up. Again, I cannot state how incredibly valuable it is to have the stitch markers in the first and last stitch when you are working this stitch pattern. Especially as we continue around, it'll just make it so much easier to find exactly where you need to be. So we've now marked that or worked in that first stitch, so we know what we got to do, right? Front post double crochet and another double crochet to finish the set of 3 there. And of course, since we were working into the first stitch, that means we're in an increase grouping or an increasing unit, if you will. So we work into the last of that set of 3 with the same set here of our stitch pattern. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. So we've done our increases. You'll remember in the previous round, we then worked in the center 3 times. In the round before that, it was 2. Well, this time it's going to be 4. 2, 3, 4. With every round, we just keep increasing the amount that we work in between our increases. So we increased it in that set. So now we're going to do 4 sets of 3 worked into the center. So we go right to the center of the next set of 3. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. Then we go right to the next one. Let me pull up a little bit more yarn here. So my other ones are getting a little tight as well. You'll need to adjust your yarn a little bit and take your time when you're working with 5 active loops like this. You can see the effect is worth it, but it does take a little bit more just taking your time with your yarn. So we've got one there. Let's go to the center of the next set of 3. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And as I say, all of this is, of course, written out in the pattern. And then we're going to go into the center of the third one, or a third one, I suppose I should say. So double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And then we need to do that one more time, right into the center. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And let's go back and check our work and make sure we're in the right spot here. So our repeat here in round 6 is we've got our increases where we work 3 in the first and 3 in the last, and then we go to the center 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll do it again. Work those 3 stitches in the first and last of this group, and then in the center of the next 4. We'll continue that all the way around until we come around to join. And when we're ready to join, once again, we're on the wrong side. We want to make sure all those other ends and all those active loops are facing towards us when we join with our slip stitch. Here you can see I finished round 6 and I went ahead and joined with my slip stitch and I secured that loop so it can't go anywhere. Now, again, I made sure all the other loops are also on this side, so you can see from the right side, no loops to be seen. But we are going to flip it back over for round 7. That said, all our yarns are now attached. So we need to go back and find our first color. So again, it's really nice to have a table or a surface to work off of while making this pattern. So we can literally come back here and find, okay, this is our first end. We can let that just hang out there. And where is the active loop of the same color? Here it is. So now if you need to, take a moment and get this yarn untangled from the other ones. So once you've got it all straightened out, you can kind of set it aside apart from the others. At least that's how I like to do it. And I'll pull up a little bit here to work with. So now I'm going to find this active loop in this color here, our first color, and I'm going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out, set it aside for just a moment. We'll need it again. And I'm going to reinsert my hook into that active loop. And I want to make sure that I get my hook in there the correct direction. There we go. When I pull down on my working yarn, the portion of the loop that's in front of my hook is the part that moves back down into the stitch, so I know we're facing the right direction. Now, with my hook in this loop, we are going to start by chaining 7. This is going to help create that braid on the inside of the hat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, these chains, we aren't going to work back into them, so they don't have to be particularly loose. We also don't want to make them overly tight. If you find that when you chain 7, your chain 7 lengths, if you will, are too long or too short, if they're becoming gappy, or if your hat is becoming too tight, you can work on adjusting the length of your chains, or you can simply add or subtract a chain as needed. This is something that could be affected by personal gauge. 7 is what works for me with just sort of a nice even chain, but you should adjust it to what works for you. Now that I've done this chaining, you see this gives me just the height I need to come back and start working in the previous row. So again, this is a good visual clue to let you know if 7 chains is going to be the right number for you. Now that I've done that chain of 7, you can see it actually makes me a little bit taller than that row if I give it just a little bit of a pull. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the right side. We need to flip this whole thing over. Don't forget, round 7, we're back on the right side. So as I do that, as I flip my work over, I want you to notice I'm pushing all of these active loops off to the side, out of the way, so that I can go straight to the first stitch of this round. Again, we ended up with a little end back here. I'll just tuck that in there with my hands, or I can use my hook. That one tried to sneak through. They do that sometimes as you join the new colors. Oh my goodness, it really wants to be sneaky in there. There we go. Now it's out of the way. We can deal with that later. It's just an end. We're all set up. We're on the right side of our fabric. All the other ends from the previous rounds are pushed off to the side. And we're all set. So now we're just going to immediately yarn over. And now for this round, we're going to go into the first stitch, like so, for a double crochet. So we can go ahead and mark the top of that first stitch with that stitch marker. We move it right on up. So this might feel a little strange at first. You can see it's kind of just hanging out there with our stitch, but that is okay. That's how this pattern is going to go, and it's going to look really beautiful. Like I say, if you find that this is just pulling super tight, feel free to add another chain right there. Now we're right back to that same stitch pattern. We're going to work a front post double crochet around that same stitch we worked into, and then double crochet in that same stitch again. Now, for this particular pattern, we know we always begin with our increases here, so we're going to put our same set here in the third of that set. So double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet again. And now, if you'll remember in the previous round, where we had 4 in the center, we're going to keep working in sort of our flat circle since this is a top-down hat. Now we're going to have 5 groups of 3 worked into the center. So it'll be increase and then don't increase for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then increase again, then don't increase again for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, this is written out in more formal terms in the written pattern, but this is sort of the pattern I think of as I make it. But other than that, it's the same stitch pattern we were doing before, so I'll see you as we finish up round 7. So here I've finished round 7. You can see I finished with my slip stitch, secured my loop, after making sure, of course, that everything was tucked cleanly to the back. Now, from here, you have an option. You can make round 8 if you'd like to increase a little bit more for the large size. If you'd like the small size, then you finish here at round 7 and move on to the sides instructions. For those who do wish to make round 8, it's the same basic repeat we were making before, where we increase in the first section, and now instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll have 6 before you do another increase. And of course, that's worked from the other side. From here on out, we'll be flipping back and forth every round as we have been since round 2. So you can follow the pattern and just follow whatever yarn color comes next. Of course, in the small and the large, it'll be slightly different sizes. For now, let's go ahead and jump to round 1 of the sides. So whether you're making round 8 to increase again or you've gone to the sides, you'll want to find the loop for the next color. We'll take our stitch marker out, and once again, we just want to make sure that we get our hook back in there the right direction. Somehow it's like a USB cord. I always pick the wrong one first. There we go. Now we are going to do the same chain of 7. You can see I've straightened out my yarn here so that my current color is sort of separate from the others. Let's do our nice gentle chain of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, this round will be from the wrong side because the previous round was from the right side. So when we work from the wrong side, we still want to do the same thing we did, but this time we'll just be able to see them. We still want to push all those other loops and colors off to the side so that they're out of our way, and we can just come on up here and begin this round. So now we're going to be working into this stitch, it's the first stitch of the round, if we are working round 8. So for round 8, again, we are increasing and we just go right there. If you don't need round 8 and you're going straight to the sides, then instead of going into that first stitch, we're actually going to go into the center stitch of each round. As you might imagine, if you think it through a little bit, from here on out, if you're working the sides, you're just going to work that group of 3 into the center of each previous group of 3 in the previous round. So now instead of going into that first stitch, we're going to yarn over. I like to put my finger there to sort of help hold those loops a little more securely. There we go. Get everything straightened out and find the center of those 3 stitches. So really the second stitch of the previous round. I'm going to work my double crochet. I'm going to hold on to that for a second so I can bring up that stitch marker. Since this is now the first stitch of this round. And then, of course, I need my front post double crochet around that same stitch. And then double crochet again in that same stitch. And now we're all set up to work evenly, meaning we just work a double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet in the center of each group of 3 all the way around. No more increasing. This is how we work our sides. Alrighty, as you can see, I have just finished up what we're working on, basically round 1 of the sides. So you can see I've worked my way around here. I've worked evenly, no more increases. And again, I want to make sure when we're on the wrong side that all these loops and ends end up right down here. Now, here's something I want you to start noticing. We brought up our first chain of 7 on this side. And if we move these out of the way, we have our second chain of 7 on this side. We're going to keep alternating like that. And as we turn, that will naturally happen. But that's what creates the braid. And essentially, we want to see these loops and ends in between those chain 7 bits. So let's go ahead and get the next round started. The rest of the rounds of the sides are just like the first round of the side. We're just going to be turning our work and working evenly all the way around each time. So the number of side rounds that you'll work depends on the size you're making. For the small, you'll make 18. For the large, 22. And of course, for custom sizes, you can make whichever size you prefer. If you want it super slouchy, you can add a few rounds. Just keep in mind, if you're making the cowl as well, you want to keep an eye on how much yarn you have left. So as we continue to work down the sides of our hat, if you will, what we do is we always start here, come to the wrong side of the hat so we can find the next color in our sequence. So we can see here we've done the light purple, the medium purple. Next is this light green. And I can kind of come right up our edges here. See, these are ends, so those aren't part of it. But here is our next working yarn, our next active loop. So I can just use my stitch marker to literally pull up on that a little bit. And I think I'm going to leave that in for a second while I get it sorted out from all the rest of these. All right, that's nice and free and clear of the others here. So again, all I need to do is pull up on that loop, get my hook right back in there. Let's see if I can do it the right way the first time this time. Hey, there we go. All right. Now, the previous round we worked from the wrong side, so we're going to be going back to the right side, but we still need to start with our chain of 7 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can see I'm doing my best to just let the hook determine the size of those loops. Now, since we're going back to the right side, means we need to take a moment here, pull up some yarn if necessary. And now we want to make sure that we are coming up on the other side of all these ends. So here's where sometimes I just take the whole yarn and I'm going to go underneath all those other guys. I might even just take my hook out of there for a second. You can put a stitch marker in that active loop if you need to. But I want to bring that chain of 7. Do you see what I've done? I brought it all the way up here to the side again of all those loops. We want to sort of sandwich those loops as we come up on either side. So I wanted to make sure those were all free and clear and in the back and just where they need to be. Put my hook right back in that loop. Get myself straightened out here, and now you can see we are free and clear to come right on up to the previous row. So you can see I pushed all those loops off to the side, and you might have to go under it with the yarn like I did there. That's fine. We just want to make a nice clear path so we can come up here. We look for, that's the first stitch, but we're working even now. So we're going to go into the second stitch of the round. And again, we're right back to that same stitch pattern. Double crochet, front post double crochet, and double crochet around that same stitch. And now that we're working even, it will always be the center of a group of 3. Once again, don't want to forget to bring up that stitch marker to the first stitch of the round. With those chain 7s, it can be a little bit harder to spot. But other than that, we just keep working even, and every time we make sure to bring up that chain 7 on either side. Now let's go ahead and jump to the brim instructions. For the brim, we bring those other colors up from the inside just as we've been doing. So here we've got our chain of 7, and as you begin the brim, you might be on the right side or you might be on the wrong side. It just depends what size you were making and if you added a little extra length or took a little bit away. Regardless, wherever you end up, for round 1 of the brim, after you've done your big chain of 7, we're going to start by working a double crochet right in the first stitch. We're not going to skip the first stitch anymore. We're going to go ahead and work right into it. I'm going to move my stitch marker on up here because I like to always keep track of the first stitch of the round. And then we're simply going to continue around working a double crochet in each and every stitch. So as we make the brim, we want to maintain the rule of keeping our active loops and working yarns on the wrong side of the hat. So for this round, I happen to be on the right side, so I want to make sure and join with a slip stitch here with all those loops pushed back out of the way. Now for the first round of the brim, we are going to PULAD, pull up, loop, and drop, one more time. This will be the last time we do this though. For the remaining rounds of the brim, we can join and then break that yarn. So let's turn over and make, or rather begin, round 2 of the brim together. Now, this is a small swatch. Of course, on your big one, you're going to have been working for quite a while, but we maintain the same idea. We always look for that next active loop coming up here, find it, pull it up, and get it free of the other yarns. So now I'm back to working from the wrong side of the hat. I'm all lined up. I'm going to go ahead and chain 7, just as I did before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, because I'm on the inside of the hat, I'm going to turn my work this way, and again, make sure all of these loops are off to the side and out of the way. I can always check to see if I'm on the correct side of the hat. I know I've turned, and I can look at the tops of my loops. This was the right side before, now we're on the wrong side. And it also helps, of course, that we've got our stitch marker. So now for round 2 of the brim, after we've chained 7, we're going to work front post and back post double crochet stitches all the way around. So we look for that first stitch right there, which we've got marked, and I'm going to work a front post double crochet right around it. So this is just like the front post double crochets we were doing before, but now we don't only work into that stitch with the front post double crochet. So for the front post double crochet, we yarn over, come from the front around that post, bring the hook around, pull up a loop, and finish our first double crochet right there. So I'm going to go ahead and move that stitch marker from the stitch I went around into the top of this stitch. Now the next stitch in our 2-stitch repeat here is a back post double crochet. So for a back post double crochet, again, we're going to yarn over, but now we're going to come from behind our work. Some of these loops may try and get in the way. Make sure to sort of push them up here in front of you so they're with all the others. We're going to come from behind our work right around the very next stitch so that our hook comes to the back of our work, just like so. Now, yarn over and carefully pull this loop free and clear of the stitch you just went around. Then you can finish your double crochet. Don't worry, I'm going to show you that again. But first we do a front post double crochet. So we yarn over, come from the front around the next post, yarn over, pull our loop up free and clear, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now we do the back post double crochet. We yarn over, we come from the back, go around the post, and push our hook to the back of our work again. Here you can yarn over, and if need be, make yourself some room. It's just yarn. You can create a gap and some space there so you can yarn over and pull that loop up free and clear. Don't be afraid to push those other stitches out of the way. Then we yarn over and finish our back post double crochet. Let's do that set one more time together. Front post double crochet, we come from the front and around, yarn over and pull up our loop, and finish our double crochet. Back post double crochet, we yarn over and come from behind. This one can be a little tricky. When we do our yarn over, take your time and pull that loop up free and clear of all the other loops before you finish your double crochet. Keep making those front post and back post double crochets all the way around until you join with your slip stitch. In total, you'll make 6 rounds for your brim, and you can see here when you stick with the stitch pattern and the color pattern and actually make all the rounds, you end up starting and finishing on your color A there when you make the brim, which I think gives it a really nice look. I really just like ending with the darkest color, but of course, you can set up your colorway however you like, add rows, and on whichever color you prefer. And if you'd like to make that brim taller or shorter, it's totally up to you. We do continue to turn our work as we make that brim, and here you can see we've continued to pull up those long chains here, our chain of 7. For the very last one, it's just a chain of 5 because these rows are a little bit shorter, but other than that, it's a chain of 7. And here you can see clearly the effect of always coming from the outside and pushing those chains and active loops out of the way so that they're sort of trapped in between these lines of chain 7 as they come up. And it creates this really lovely braided effect, which of course, if you don't care for, goes on the inside of the hat. And we have our beautiful stitch pattern as the star of the show. Whichever way you prefer it, I hope you enjoy making this hat. And that's how to crochet the Ridgeline Stripes crochet hat. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.